Hello everyone. In this video we are going to cover blend shapes. Um, there's really two ways to do full facial animation, and maybe you could even say three, where you can create joints in the face and then skin weight them and all that kind of stuff, and we're going to get into skin weighting soon. Um, but you know enough about rigging now where we don't have to put the entire skeletal face on there. So we're going to do it a different way and teach you something newer or different. And we're going to do blend shapes. So games and movies and all that kind of stuff, they, you know, probably for the most part utilize a little bit of both. And there's also something known as, excuse me, corrective blend shapes. So typically, I'll just explain it really quickly. The location at which these joints go around, and it's fully dependent on how many joints you want to add, but typically like one in each cheek. You'll have, you know, numerous ones around the eyelid. One, two, at least three, I would say, probably. Maybe, you could probably get away with one, but to have full facial control, and then, at least three on the top. You'll have some for the eyebrow here. You'll have some for possibly the forehead also, where your head kind of does something like that. The mouth, possibly the nostrils. I mean, it could be really anything. The ears, if the ear, your character has longer ears, maybe like an elf, and they wiggle and wobble and stuff. So there's so many different ways to do this, but I'm going to show you a new way. And this I find the easiest to learn right off the bat also. Because there's no need for us to cover creating joints again and all that kind of stuff. Alright, so we're going to start by duplicating our character one time. Okay? And on this particular character, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my rigging tab, or is it under animation? Yeah, it's under actually animation, and we're going to go to blend shape, and we're going to hit the settings box and make sure your mesh is selected. Deform, blend shape, and hit the settings box. Now in here we're just going to name it, and we're going to name this facial expressions, and we'll just do check topology. Everything else should be fine, and we're just going to go ahead and hit create. So again, just in case you didn't catch all that, make sure that you have the same settings as mine. Okay, and then just name it facial expressions. So from here on out, we're going to always, and I actually will tell you this, I've told you this in an earlier video, but at this point, you never want to do anything that's edit, delete all by type history anymore. You want to do non-deformer history, because we're going to be creating deformations, and that's what all this whole rigging thing is set up to do. So we'll have a few things here in the input: tweak 1, facial expressions, yada yada. So we've created basically what we call a node for this thing. We've created this little node that can take this type of information and store it. Now in this particular model, we're going to rename this, and I'm just going to call this R brow. I only require 5 of these, so create 5 different blend shapes. You can do R smile. Let's do smile. Smile might be, and so that's going to be right smile. All right, and that's it. Just name it R smile. Good to go. Now, what we're going to do is, on top of that, on our head controller here, we're going to go to modify and add attribute, and we're going to name it R smile. And we could actually, even before we do that, create facial expressions, and make this one displayable and minimum 0, maximum 0, and go ahead and click add. And there it is, facial expressions. Now, the next thing I'll do is R smile, okay, and add. Now, I'll go ahead and close this for the time being because we're just going to connect the R smile to it. So I'm going to select my R smile mesh, but I'm just going to leave it named R smile, and that's going to be the right side of the mouth. And what I'll do is I'm going to tap B on my keyboard to turn on my soft select mode. B toggles it on and off, and you can always change the under soft selection some of the tools down here, but I'm going to stick with just something like this, and I'm going to go ahead and just sort of grab it up and rotate it around and do something like that. So R smile. You could even get a little bit more in depth with it by sculpting directly on it, so you can go into the sculpting tab and select your sculpt tool here, and I'm going to leave that off, but my symmetry off, and then I could go ahead and sort of clean this up a little bit or whatever. However, if you are totally, this is just getting a little bit more in depth with it, and you could always sculpt more stuff in. However, I just wanted to show you that you can do that kind of thing. I think I might leave it as is, and maybe I'll just take this one back. Anyway, that's fine. This perfectly fine for this example. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to select this character. He has R smile. I'm going to select the character. I'm going to shift select my main base mesh, and I'm going to go to deform, blend shape down here where it's under that little edit tab thing, blend shape, and I'm going to do add. And you could specify, let's see if you could specify the node, facial expressions. By default, it should automatically do it because I only have one blend shape node, but if you had multiple ones, it might matter a little bit more. But let's just try it this way first. Just blend shape add. And when I click on my character now, you're going to notice one thing, right? Under facial expressions, you'll see I have R smile. So it did work. And if it didn't work that way, just do specify node and make sure it's under facial expressions. So now under R smile, if I turn this up, right, it'll cap at 1. I would just want to be right on the face. And now you'll see that I've just created a small little smile, right? So R smile. So I'm going to bring this down to 0, and I'm going to duplicate this one again. Make sure it's at 0, by the way. It has to be at 0, otherwise it's going to probably retain some of that previous information and kind of be weird. And now I'm going to go ahead and select this side, and I'm going to call this one left smile. I already have this selected, so just kind of roll with it. And maybe I select it here. And try to make it as nice as you can. And the reason why this, when we did this earlier, it was so important to get the topology proper is so it does these types of creases like where the laugh line is. You know what I mean? So otherwise it won't deform right and you'll get really, really weird results. So for this one I'm going to stick with that. We'll just call this one L smile. We'll go back over here and we'll call we'll add some attributes, modify add attribute. So I have L smile add. We'll do L brow down add, R brow down add, and I'll come up with another one here momentarily. So that's enough to get us started with 4. Now from here, obviously, this is already my L smile, so I can select this one, shift select my mesh, and do deform, blend shape, add. And now when I click on this, I have to select the mesh, go to the facial expressions under inputs, and L smile, you'll see that he has L smile and he has R smile. So I've got my character now smiling. Looks a little funky, but I didn't put too much time into it. So you can actually have a lot of fun with this particular, and I'm going to duplicate this with this particular style here. So what did I do? L brow down and right brow down. So let me do this in the same order I did as before. So, oh, yeah, so there it is. L brow down, R brow down. So I'll do L brow down first. R brow, it doesn't matter really. Down. And then I'll go back over here. Excuse me. And I'll do, this one was what, R? This one will be L brow down and R brow down. Okay. So R brow down. So my right eyebrow is going to come down. Alright, and I'll select here. And I'm just going to, I'm really just sort of fooling around with this, and I'm just going to bring his, maybe I select both of these and bring it down. Alright, and then I'll do the same thing to this one. This is L brow down. I'll select this one and this one, and bring that one down. Okay. So now I can select this one, shift select the original mesh, blend shape, deform, blend shape, add. Do the same thing with this one. Shift select the first one, shift select the original mesh, deform, blend shape, add. And now let's go ahead and test it, just make sure it's working okay. So I have R brow down, and I have L brow down. Perfect. Alright, L and R. And I can have both of them both be done. Ah. Now, while I'm at it, this envelope is basically telling you if it's on or off. 1 is on, 0 is off. That's really all it is. Sort of like binary code. Right, so we're going to keep it on because we want to leave it on for now. And I have to do one more, so I don't know. Let's do, let's see if I can get his upper lip to come up so he's like, or some kind of snarl. I don't know. Alright, so I'll duplicate this one more time. Bring it over here. And now I'm going to do some kind of snarl or something. Just for the entire thing. This one I can actually turn symmetry on. And if I use my move tool, or my soft select tool, I'm going to have to really finagle this a little bit. I'm definitely going to need to select these down here. Bring that up. And even this one here. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to just start to play around with the poly sculpting tool. And I want to make sure my symmetry is on object X. I'm just going to start to sort of sculpt around in here, kind of make it look a little better. And you could do phonemes like this for lip sync. um, excuse me. You could do tons of stuff with this. So I'll even try to bring it up just a little bit more just to see what'll happen. We'll start here and turn my soft select on. I don't want it to highlight too much on the bottom at all. Let's just try and bring this back up. And now I'll be good with that. And if I want, I'll bring his lip forward. Who knows? It doesn't really matter, at least for the example. So it's all dependent on what you want to have your character look like and be doing and stuff like that. And here we go. And then I'll just soften this side out just a little bit. And now I've got my character, because I can move the bottom jaw with the jaw controller I already have on. However, the upper lip I can't. So we'll call this upper snarl. Upper lip snarl. Or upper lip up. That'll work, right? So it's named upper lip up. And I'm going to add my final attribute, and we're going to call it upper lip up. And I'm going to click add and close. And now what I'm going to do is, you guessed it, I'm going to select this one here, shift select my last one. I'm going to do deform, blend shape, add. And now I'll be able to do the snarl, upper lip up, whatever you want to call it. Alright, so one of the last things I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take all of these characters here, and I'm going to create a new layer from create layer from selected. So I selected all my blend shapes, and I'm just going to call this blend shapes layer. Okay, and black is fine. Okay, and then from now I can hide them, but now I can always go back and modify them as I see fit. So I have it connected to the character. Now, no matter what I do to the blend shapes over here, it will do the same thing over here. So let's just show you real quick. I'm going to turn on upper lip up and just show you really quickly. If I were to make, and I have it turned on, so if I were to make any type of change, this doesn't have to just be the face. You know, if I wanted to make the character larger, I can make him larger. So I can do, really, I have total freedom on how I want to manipulate this character. So I don't want it to go that much, just like the belly. And now you can see my character has a little pot belly instead of this sort of malnutritious kind of thing. But, you know, you get the idea. We're only focusing on the face. Alright. So I'm going to come back to my character here, facial expressions, and I'm going to turn my upper lip off for now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these using the connection editor. However, these really aren't the easiest to find. So if I go to Windows and I go to rendering editors, I believe it's under. Give me one. Oh, here we go. General editors, hypergraph connections. We're going to open up the hypergraph connections. So that's Windows, general editors, hypergraph connections. This used to actually, the hypergraph connections used to be like right underneath the outliner in older versions. So anyway, just in case maybe you are using an older version, who knows. So I'm going to select my character, but one of the first things I want to do is click on this facial expressions node in here on the hypergraph connections editor. And by selecting on that, now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go to my Windows general editor, and we're going to go to the connection editor. There it is. So I want to keep both of these open simultaneously. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is, can I dock these? I don't know if you can dock these ones. All right. So this one you might be able to. I'm just going to leave it off to the side. All right. So I'm going to select on my head controller. I'm going to do reload left because this is sort of the driver in this case. If you remember, like the set driven key, this is the one that's going to control anything on the right hand side. So down here at the very bottom, R smile, and I'm going to go to facial expressions and reload right. And now you're like looking at this and saying, hey, where's, you know, my attributes I created, right? So go under weight and they'll be located right there. So R smile, we're going to connect to R smile. Left smile, we're going to connect to left smile. L brow down, L brow down. R brow down, R brow down. Upper lip up, upper lip up. That's simple. As long as you name everything right, and when you add it to the actual base mesh, it's named properly before you hit add blend shape, it'll be super easy for you. So now I can close this. I'm going to keep this open just in case. I'm going to highlight my controller, and now you'll see I've got our smile, but you'll notice that it's going super crazy high, right? And it's because we don't have a minimum or a maximum set to this. So for now, keep it at 0, and in the future assignment, we're going to be covering setting minimums and maximums to our rig. So basically we're going to do another pass on touch-ups and cleanup on the rig. So we're going to set min and max on a number of different controls. Not all of them, just a couple, primarily the feet. We're going to do it to the face, and then we're going to get to bind the skin finally, or the mesh, or you know, it's called binding the skin, but we're going to bind the mesh, the topology, the polygons, to those joints, and then we're going to be able to animate our character really, really soon. So these are just sort of the final touches to do before we bind the character, skin bind the character. And whenever rigging, I personally find it best to sort of at least create all the blend shapes you want to have beforehand. So let's just say, you know, you could have just to throw out some ideas at you, you can create however many blend shapes you want. You know, R brow, so you could do 3 different eyebrows, at least 3 different ones. So, and you could even go up to 6 because you have to do R brow up, R brow down, and you could do inner, middle, and outer on just the upper eyebrow. You can do blinks. You can do blend shapes for blinks, so you can have your character blink. You can do so many different things, and what's really, really neat is you can use the connection editor to connect it like this, which is really fast way. But sometimes you want, you know, our inner brow to control both it moving up and down. So on positive numbers and negative numbers. So negative numbers, the inner brow would go down, and on positive numbers, the brow would go up. And in that particular case, you would use something called, that we just previously did, set driven key. So as we did with the foot rotating, it would be the same exact thing with the face animating on the set driven key. So you would just have to play around with that, and if you were interested. But that's how a lot of riggers and animators and stuff like that, and professional rigs are done, just so you're aware. But other than that, we're basically all set to do one final pass over this rig, and we're going to be animating pretty soon. So anyway, if you have any questions, shoot me a message, and thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for the next one.